What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Part Lane Podcast, episode number 52. Spurs get yet another victory in the Premier League, and all I can say to Vincent Kompany is get back to your fucking documentary, lad. Anyway, joining me as always on this show, my fabulous co-hosts. I'll start with you, Wynnie. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all good, mate. How are you? More importantly,
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. A little bit of sore legs, but we move. There's no big deal going on here. Dave, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm feeling positive, actually, which is a rare thing for me, but there we go.
Amazing. And Kallum, you well?
All good, mate. All good. I'm smiling, so I'm happy for a fourth pod in a row. I'm glad we didn't do one in the week. Let's put it that way.
I know. We've got a little bit to talk about. I'm going to kind of brush over a little bit about that cup exit, but we can have a little chat about it. But I don't want to go. I don't want to dampen the mood because quick shout out to every week you come on as Haley, but I know you're not actually called Haley. That's your mum's name. So welcome back to the show. I want to kind of run this show a little bit more positively because the Twitter sphere recently, Winnie, has been full of the old negativity which you expect from Spurs fans. But let's cast our minds quickly back to Tuesday night out of the Carabao Cup in the second round. For all the plaudits I've given Ange. Yeah. I don't really like swearing 2 minutes into the show, even though I did it 30 seconds in, but he cocked it up. Let's be honest.
Big time, yeah. And you know what? Like, it's difficult because I don't want to sit here and criticise him so early because, we almost expect there to be hiccups straight away. And, bar Tuesday, there hasn't really been any hiccups. So I think he got the team wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't because we all know as soon as we saw Sanchez, etc., on the team sheet, we knew what was going to happen. However, I mean, what I tried to make a point, obviously, young Harry, who's not here today, but he was getting quite irate about it. And I was like, look, mate, just calm down. Like, just chill. If you look at all the other teams in the league, Bournemouth lost to us at the previous, like the weekend before the cup games, and they made 9 changes. So that's a team that just lost in the Premier League, and they then make 9 further changes to weaken their side. It's just what happens in that competition, especially in round 2. We haven't entered round 2 in a very long time because obviously we've been in Europe for about 13 consecutive seasons, so we don't normally enter it that early. But no team who are ambitious to get into the top 4 should have to put out a full strength side on a Tuesday, regardless of the opposition, unless you're maybe playing a Man City. But even then, I still don't think you have to do it. So I'm disappointed because we do have a very little competition, not being in Europe this season. So I'm disappointed. But look, I'm not going to sit here and, I kind of like what he said. Ange's always very, very, very truthful in what he says. He doesn't beat around the bush. So when he came out and said, look, how do you expect me to know what these players can do unless I throw them in a game? And he's not someone who's just going to bullshit for the sake of it. He genuinely meant that, and I do believe it. So look, he cocked up with a little bit of the team selection. We're out. There's not much more we can do about it now.
No, I agree, mate. I agree. And, that's kind of one of the things that you and I both, sit on together. I know the others, have a little bit different ideas and we'll go to them in a minute. But I completely agree. Like, how on earth can you tell who is going to play well, who is going to fit into the system, who has, understood exactly what is being asked of them? And, really, it just proves it, doesn't it? That the second string of players that we have aren't good enough to be able to step in and do that. But Dave, do you kind of like echo a little bit what Winnie says, or do you just think like?
Well, I would say, firstly, if you don't like swearing, you shouldn't watch the podcast with me on. So I apologise in advance. But I'm going to shock everybody here. Bookmark this. 5 minutes 11 seconds in. I don't give a fuck, mate. I couldn't care less. Like, the reality of it is this is a new process. This is a new manager with a new team, with new ideas, which are playing decent football. We all know our second 11 is total dog shit. You know, the reality of it is, I went into the season thinking we're probably not going to win anything this season anyway. First season with Ange, let him establish the hierarchy he wants. He's got rid of that toxic leadership group that we had with Kane, Dyer, Lloris, and Højbjerg, and he's created his own. I don't really give a shit about the Carabao Cup. Like, I would rather go out the Carabao Cup and try and win the FA Cup. Like, what would happen if we win the Carabao Cup? Well, everyone would be like, oh, it's the Mickey Mouse Cup. Like, what's the fucking point? It's pointless. Like, so for me, I didn't really give a shit. Yeah, he could have put out a stronger team and he could have went for it a bit more, but the reality of it is we've got an overinflated squad and a load of shit players that pick up wages for no reason. I don't want to leave the team, don't want to leave the squad. That's up to them. But do I care about going out the Carabao Cup? I couldn't give two flying fucks, mate, to be honest.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I will come to you in a second, Kallum, because I have a feeling kind of you might have a different view on this, but I'm not sure. But we've got a comment here saying always Davidson Sanchez, sigh emoji.
At least he had the balls.
And then another
he had the balls. The report came out that nobody wanted to take a penalty, and he was the only one that stepped up. So, you know, I mean, it's a Carabao Cup. Like, you're playing Fulham in round 2. Who really gives a shit? I don't care. Like, move on, forget it. It is what it is. Like, it's a dog shit trophy. It'd have been nice to win it, but the Audi Cup's as prestigious, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And let's not forget the pre-season trophy that we
exactly.
as well. You know, there's many trophies oiling that cabinet. Anyway, Kallum, give me your thoughts on Tuesday before we move on, man.
Well, to be fair, them pre-season cups are about the equivalent of a secondary school netball trophy, aren't they? Something like that. You might as well just go down cash converters and pick a load of them up. But yeah, to be fair, I'm kind of in between the views of everyone. I would have liked to have seen a not as highly rotated team. I think that would be my perspective to it. But to be fair, we've got a shit draw having Fulham in round 2 and all that. How many Premier League teams are you likely to get when you've got Wrexham, Scunthorpe and people like that? But yeah, I mean, to be fair though, the thing is, the guys who played, they had the chance to shine and all that. They are professional players. I mean, Solomon, Israeli international, Perisic, Croatian international, Sanchez, Colombian international, Forster, ex-England.
Because Colombia got no one else to play there.
Well, yeah, but then they kind of had to hit and hope and all that, like they always do in the South American Cup. But the thing is, Lo Celso, World Cup winner. Or did he not go? That's one of them. Well,
I think he was injured.
Yeah, but he literally was probably the best attacking midfielder for Argentina.
Yeah.
There's so many internationals. Højbjerg, Danish international. Skip has just won the England Under-21 Cup as well. So there was more than enough international experience in there of professional players to do it. And no disrespect to Fulham, but they pretty much put out a second-rate team as well. They didn't go with their full strength lineup either. So, I mean, and Richarlison, Brazil's number 9. So they all had to pull their socks up and get on and do it. They screwed it up, we're out of the cup. Bollocks to it now. Let's just move on, mate. Simple as that, I think, because we've got no other choice. We'll play the FA Cup in February or March. Probably go out there again. We'll probably do like what we always do. So we need to either buck our ideas up or use it as a learning curve and apply it like we did yesterday to beat Burnley. So it should be, mate.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. And that's a perfect segue into yesterday's game. So 3:00 kickoff yesterday, away to Vincent Kompany's Burnley. And, as much as with our score predictions, which we'll get onto later, we were all pretty confident, bar Harry, of a Spurs win. One of those kind of games where Burnley did so well in the Championship. Vincent Kompany obviously playing under Pep Guardiola, employing this different style of football at Turf Moor. And the start of the game, I started to get, a little bit nervous. before the game had kicked off. I don't know about the rest of you. And, in a certain way, Winnie, rightly so, because, within 4 minutes of the game kicking off, Burnley break down the left-hand side. Pedro Porro is done quite easily, cut back to Lyle Foster, and he just slots it home. Were you worried at that point?
No, I mean, if I'm completely honest, obviously, I've seen the highlights in the game since, but I wasn't watching it live because I was playing football at the time. But I came into the changing rooms just as the game was coming into half time, and we were 2-1 up. But look, I mean, I since watching the highlights, I think it was just one of those where, I mean, it was a decent finish. It was a tidy finish. It was quite a good little move put together by Burnley. I wouldn't necessarily say it was, if we'd have done something horrendous, if Vicario would have thrown one into his goal, or if we'd have, because I mean, even though you say Porro got done easy, I mean, he still was in and around. It's not as if he was miles off him. He was still in and around trying to make a tackle as such. So, look, I mean, we've got to expect with the system that we play. And the high line that we play, etc. We're gonna get undone sometimes. It's just how we react, and obviously, eventually, we reacted very, very well. But I wasn't, obviously, like I say, I can't say I wasn't worried because I wasn't watching it live. But I wouldn't have been worried if I was watching it, given the fact that I know that we could turn it on, and it wasn't necessarily an error leading to a goal. That would have concerned me.
Definitely, and Dave. Ange made a brave call. Realistically, he put Solomon out on the left. He dropped Richarlison. He put Son through the middle. And then, within kind of 10, 12 minutes of that, around 16 minutes, the ball was lifted over the top to Heung-min Son. He laid it off to Solomon, who took his time. I was, kind of thinking the chance was gone. Played it on to Son. And, as much criticism as you particularly have given Son, over the months, that finish was pretty special from him, wasn't it? A little deft finish over the keeper, and it was good for him.
Yeah, it's a great finish. I'll be honest, I have been hard on Son, but I'll be honest, I think he's lost where he plays when Richarlison plays. I think he just gets lost in the game. He just kind of disappears in and out of the game. But through the middle, I think the change was forced. I think Richarlison got a knock against Fulham. Which is why he put Son through the middle. But at the end of the day, Son against Burnley, the history, he loves scoring against Burnley. So, yeah, it was a great finish, clever finish. And you know what I say about that? Richarlison wouldn't have scored that.
No.
He'd have banged it against the keeper and gone for a corner. That's what would have happened because he's got no confidence at all. So, it's an interesting one. So, yeah, it was one of those ones where it's like Sam Allardyce football, and it wasn't really like Ange ball. We got the ball from the back, pumped it forward, Son sprinting onto it, quick to Solomon, quick back to him, chip, goal. So it wasn't like the Ange ball that you've seen clips of everything else. It was route one, job done. So yeah, it was good, and it's good for Sonny as well, and that's the most important thing. It'll be good for his confidence as new captain. So yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, 100%, mate, and. Kallum, we were really pushing after that leveler, and pretty much on the stroke of half time, we scored again and went 2-1 up. Christian Romero with an absolute thunder blaster from outside the edge of the box. But VAR, I don't want to talk about VAR too much, but they tried and they tried and they tried to see whatever they could to rule the goal out. First of all, it was an offside for Maddison. And then it was a challenge from Sarr, even though Sarr goes to try and strike the ball. And it's just a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, it was an unbelievable finish from a centre-back who I've been, harsh on for quite some time, due to his rash nature. I think, putting him in the leadership team, as Ange likes to call it, has done him the world of good. But what a fucking finish, man.
I think I texted you wow just when it went in when I was watching it live. So, yeah, I think brilliant finish. I think we was all very surprised. I'm glad we weren't doing this last night because VAR have had a shocker again this weekend. Not just our game, I think all the way across and about 4 or 5 other games. So I think we're going to continue to have this discussion, but to try and pull it back for something where it was nowhere near offside or whether there was an infringement in play. These refs need to just grow the hell up and all that, because how much more time are we going to waste on this, being fans, having to read it and then get an apology come out on Monday if it don't go right? So, but no, detracting from the goal, yeah, I thought an amazing finish, and someone who's a bloody centre back and all that. I mean, I thought by the time that it went round the box and finally got out to him, I thought the chance was dead. I thought the fact that we had about 4 different players try and shoot, and then it just dropped to Romero amazingly, and he just took it. Yeah, I can't say much more apart from wow, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think, Kallum, that Romero has chilled slightly since last season, or is it just me trying to be a bit nicer to him?
I think it's you blowing smoke up his arse a little bit, mate, to be honest, because yeah, I mean, we had the same discussion, what was it, last week against Bournemouth, weren't it? So I think it's going to take a bit more time than just 4 games and all that, because he's still got that side to him. He's already said that in all the interviews I've read that he's done, he likes to play on the edge, likes to have that sort of aggressive side to him, because it's part of the way that he plays. And you can train people to manage it, but I don't think you're ever going to remove it from them. And I think he's always going to still walk at a top rope for him having 1 or 2 red cards a year. I think
it was the same with Dele Alli. When Dele Alli first played for us, he was a nasty little fucker.
We loved Dele for that, though, didn't we?
And we took that away from him. We told him rein it in, because he did some silly things. I understand that, but they told him to rein it in. He reined it in, and obviously he has other issues aside from that. But as soon as he was told to rein it in, he was a completely different player. So for me personally, with Romero, you need a player to have that little bit of edge.
Yeah,
but there's an edge and then there's a headbutt. I think that's
I get that.
Draw down the middle and all that.
Yeah, and I also agree to that. There's an edge, and then there's getting sent off against Man City. For no reason. When we're, as far as I remember, we're in control of the game at the time, and we didn't.
You need to remember, this season he hasn't really done that.
No,
let's give him some credit. He's made a few late challenges or whatever else, but he's kept his cool, he's kept his head, and maybe giving him, the vice captaincy was a bit of a stroke of genius from Ange, because maybe in Romero's head, he's like, well, I can't, people need to look up to me now, and if I'm going to be captain of this team, then, I need to be responsible as such, if that makes sense. So, I've got to give him credit this season. He scored 2 goals already this season, and we haven't seen any recklessness from him, really. He's made a couple of, challenges that you could say were a bit naughty, but he's a tough centre-back. He's an old-school centre-back. That's the type of centre-back I love. I don't want these defenders that pussyfoot around like Sanchez. I want defenders that get stuck in.
Yeah. No, fair enough. So move on to the second half, and Vincent Kompany made some changes, and for some bizarre reason decided to go for 5 at the back, at which point, we just took absolute control. The third goal was on the 54th minute, Wynnie, James Maddison.
Yeah.
And this guy is getting better and better and better with each game. The ball was won back, I think, by Solomon, played across the edge of the box to Maddison. And he just curled it into the far corner. Beautiful goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we expect. What we expected to get when we signed him. We knew that he was going to chip in with assists, which he has already provided this season. We knew he was going to chip in with goals, which he has now provided again. Look, this guy is absolute mustard. As I've said on the show before, I used to watch not Leicester every week, but if they were on, I'd watch them in envy at having a player like James Maddison playing for them, because we don't like to use the K word on this show anymore. But people say we haven't replaced Harry Kane. I almost think we've kind of got someone who. No, I know what you're saying, Dave. I'm not saying we've replaced Harry Kane, because Harry Kane is irreplaceable, but we have replaced someone who can do similar things that Kane can do in James Maddison. He won't score 30 goals, James Maddison, but I guarantee you he probably gets you 10 plus. But on top of that, he'll get you 10 plus assists as well.
Can I say something just really quickly to interrupt you all on the Harry Kane situation? Does anybody feel like we're actually a better team
without
him. Like, I feel like more people are chipping in with goals. There's more since, like I said, since we got rid of the toxic four, as I call them now. It's like it's like we're a different squad and a different mentality. It's almost like those four players in that leadership group were, you know, so dominant over the squad and so dominant over the team that they were hindering any sort of progression. You know, maybe Anne come in and saw that and was like, well, I don't want this. You know, it needs to be fresh. It needs to be new. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm gutted about H. I'm gutted about him leaving. Obviously, everyone knows the goals he brings. And he would have scored bags of goals under Ange. Bags of goals.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that he wants to go and play in a Farmers League in Germany. That's up to him, you know. So I personally believe, I don't know how you all feel, as a unit, as a squad, we are better without Harry Kane. I'm still at ENIC out, by the way, whoever that was.
Yeah.
We'll come to that. Don't worry.
Yeah. Do you know what? And that kind of like touches on what Wynnie was saying in a certain way, because I think of what you were saying, Wynnie, just then, was that Harry Kane, when he would play for us, would drop deep, would then spread the ball out to the wingers. He would then have to then get into the box for his own assist to an assist and then score. But what we have with James Maddison is a player who can produce passes, who can spray the ball, who can turn a man and get us, you know, ahead in a game. Yeah. Whereas we then still have a player, whether it's Son or whether it one day is Richarlison, or whether one day is Valith, or whether one day is Ivan Toney, or whoever that is person that comes in. We now have a player that can do those passes, but we have also a striker who can play in the box and score the goals when they come in. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, basically, yeah. We never ever will replace H until if he ever comes back. I don't know if he ever will. I don't think he will now, to be honest. But yeah, we've replaced someone who can do, who has similar attributes and can deliver, you know, similar expertise on the pitch. Obviously, H was different gravy, but Maddison, in my eyes, you know, technically is just as good as Harry Kane. So. And I think you know, people may call me silly, but I think what we've seen of him so far has shown that. And I mean, like little things like he'll receive the ball on a half turn, and then he'll just be he'll turn the defender and he'll be absolutely gone. And his first thought, what I saw one phase of play yesterday, and I think it was the you know, which we'll talk about because it was the lead up to one of the goals. You know, I think I tweeted out on the. On the podcast Twitter pages, you know, Ange ball, this is unbelievable, something similar like that. And it was just all through James Maddison. Every single part of that move was through him. There was one, he knocked it into someone, and their first thought wasn't to turn up and play the ball themselves. Their first thought was to literally just touch it straight back into Maddison's path, and then he sprayed it onto someone else. So he's thinking like 3 steps ahead of everyone else. He's absolutely, he's different gravy, mate.
Definitely. That was the 5th goal, actually. But we'll move on to the 4th goal. Was on 63rd minute for Son to get his second, Dave. And, you know, it just felt yesterday that Son was just playing with confidence. You know, he had the ball kind of in and around the box and just slotted it into the far corner. And, you know, with Son, it was very difficult for him because under Ange, he wants his wingers to play really wide, which then allows the 8s, as I call them, to kind of progress forward, you know, your Maddison and your Sarr, to get into the box or to score goals. So it is difficult for him playing out there because he is a player who is a wide player, but he's also a player who likes to take a shot and come inside. And it's a lot more difficult in that position. But, you know, after the first goal, Dave, Son seemed to just gain confidence.
Like I said to you before, he loves playing against Burnley. That's the thing. He loves, you know, scoring goals against Burnley and scoring great goals against Burnley. You know, that's Son. You know, it's like he forgot that he can finish like that, and that first goal reminded him that, oh, hang on, I'm quite good at this. You know, and then it was like, okay, now I've got a bit of confidence. And as soon as he went, you know, as soon as he got the ball, I was like, he's going to score it. You know, he's going to score. You know, that's the sort of Son that I remember from a couple of seasons ago. So, you know, I would like to see him play through the middle a little bit more. I'd like to see, you know, as tough as it is on Richarlison, at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, he's not good enough. He does good dog work, as I call it, but The way I kind of look at it, I would like to see maybe Son play through the middle a bit more. I thought Solomon was really impressive. So
yeah, definitely. Let's give it to Richarlison, right? He played Burnley on the opening game of the season, didn't score. Then he played Manchester United, didn't score. Then he played Bournemouth, didn't score. Then he played Fulham, scored, but we didn't win the game. Son comes in against Burnley and he scores a hat-trick. Now, it's not all about that, right? It could be just an anomaly and maybe a one-off with Son. But my point is that Bournemouth, Brentford and Burnley, right? All teams that you would expect a mediocre striker to score against, given the chances that he has been given. And so, that's what worries me about him. But Kallum, when he was talking a minute ago about James Maddison, the fifth goal, and he is right. He got the ball kind of defensive third of the pitch, took a touch, got the ball laid back into him, spread it out to Pedro Porro, who played one of the best balls I've seen in a long time, out to Heung-min Son. He just knew exactly where he was, and Son wasn't missing that. But what were your thoughts on Son's play through the middle yesterday?
A lot more positive than Richie. I think that's the way to put it. I mean, to be fair, let's not kid ourselves. It's against Burnley. They're a newly promoted team. They are still trying to get acclimatised to playing in the Premier League. But Son took his chances well. Like Ange took the mickey out of him in the post-match interview. He should have had a fall, which I did enjoy. But yeah, I think I would much rather have Son through the middle than Richie. I just think it's more reliable. Bring on Richie when they're tiring 50, 60 minutes, but then probably in the club's eyes, they've spent 60 million on a player, so they're going to probably put pressure on Ange to play him, which is the unique way. And I think that, like what Wynnie was saying, Madders has come in, he's done great, he's doing the dirty work, which people need to do. He constantly makes breaks into the box, he's picking up dead ball situations outside of the box, he's got a pass and a half on him that I've not seen in a long time. And no matter how much he gets taken out, I love how he can really rile up rival fans as well, because he was proper giving it to the Bournemouth fans last week and now the Burnley fans yesterday. And yeah, but I think the one point I did want to add on to when he was saying about with H going and all that, I think we're actually playing like a team now and not a one-man team. And I'm sure I messaged you guys yesterday saying that the goals are coming from everywhere. The build-up play is coming from everywhere. They've had to step up to fill a void, but I don't feel like that void's there. I feel the team are playing differently to incorporate everyone into it instead of having one man as a centre focal point. Because, I mean, one of my mates is a Liverpool fan, and he's taken the piss out of me for years for supporting Spurs, saying Spurs were a one-man team, all of that stuff. But he was completely right, saying that if Spurs lost Kane, they would actually play better football. And from what we've seen in the last 4 out of 5 games, we actually have. And I wouldn't think we'd be scoring 5, let alone against Burnley and all that. Not one of them goals was from, or not one of them would have been from Kane and all that, because I don't think he ever really scores at Turf Moor, does he, anyway, when he used to play up there? I don't think we could ever score at Turf Moor. So, I mean, to actually get 5 shows that something that the club have worked on over the summer is trying to build a team and build that ethic to keep going, to keep playing, to be creative from the wing backs, from the centre of midfield, from centre backs. I mean, yeah, there was a bit of long ball yesterday, but that was actually being picked up quite well. And I think that only happened when Richarlison came up, to be honest, anyway.
Yeah, to be fair, though, sometimes you have to do that, though, don't you? Sometimes you have to play the team that you're playing. I think it was spotted early on that Burnley were playing such a high line and with Son's pace that, balls like for the 5th goal from Pedro Porro actually will be the things that we will get won over Burnley on. And I don't think Burnley are to be sniffed at. I've been watching a little bit of that documentary after I took the mick out of it earlier, and it's all a bit odd that that it all started with them talking about how the owners are Mormons and whatnot, and it was all a bit odd. But, they spent a lot of money to get into the Premier League, and then they seem to have made a lot of transfers again, and they seem to play Pep style football. You can see that from James Trafford in goal, and him playing pretty much as a centre back as well. So look, little lapse of concentration at the end. We run out 5-2 winners and go at the time second in the Premier League, and you can't really argue about that. And I want to just touch on each of you now, but we'll just do a bit of admin first. So obviously, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like the video now. Make sure you're sharing all of our posts on Twitter. If you listen on any podcast platform, make sure that you're leaving a 5-star review if you are liking the content.
And follow us all.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. All of that jazz. Most importantly is that you're enjoying the show. If you're enjoying the show live and you're on YouTube right now, write us a comment, get involved, and we'll read out as many as we can. But I just want to go around the table really quickly, and I don't really want to talk about this for the rest of the season, but I do want to kind of get everyone's kind of immediate thoughts on Ange Postecoglou, because we talked about it a bit, Dave, and weirdly, actually, Dave, no offense to you, but weirdly, you and I were a couple of the people who were pretty keen on Ange to come to Spurs, and you kind of saw that vision as well. Not that we're pioneers in this, but I mean, when I say surprising, usually, Dave, you're kind of very much like straight to the point. You want someone that's going to win. You want this, you want that. But actually, you saw something that a lot of people didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of people are like, oh, what's his CV? What's this? What's that? But the reality of it is, you've got to give someone a chance. Ange Postecoglou has always been good at rebuilds, no matter where he's been. Every club he's been to, it's been a rebuild project. And everyone can say, oh, but he's managed Japan, or he's done this here, or he's done that there. But it doesn't matter where you manage. If you're a good manager, you're a good manager. He did great things for the Australian national team. And also, I watched Celtic quite a lot, and I saw the football they were playing, and it was exciting. It reminded me of Poch ball as such when we were at our peak with Poch. That high pressing, that the interchanging of the passing, the interchanging of the players. And you are right. We were one of the first couple of people to say, I'm all in for Ange. When the Nagelsmann thing didn't happen, I was like, what, Ange is the guy. Ange is the man. And in terms of what he's done and what he's brought so far, you'd be mad to say you're not happy with it. You would be mad to say you're not happy with it. The feel-good factors back around the club, aside from the board and transfers and things like that, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But in terms of the football and in terms of, that excitement, that get you off your seat, that Conte ball style's dead, and we've got this, I'm loving Big Ange instead.
Yeah, definitely. Quick one, Dave. There is a comment here for you. I just want to get your point in it really quickly without kind of, going into one of your 10-minute rants like you did the other day. You've been asked, we all know you want Levy out, etc., which I agree with too. But who would you like to see as owners?
I don't really care. I'd love to see Qatari ownership. I know that's a bit frosty in this group, but all I want is an owner that is willing to put his money, his money where his mouth is, and actually invest correctly into the team moving forward. We have this ownership group at the moment, who obviously everyone knows I'm not fond of, and I'm not going to go into a rant, but this whole one out, one in situation, not tearing up contracts of players that are clearly overstayed their welcome because they want to get a few quid. All I really want is an ownership to come in, the manager to say, you know what, I want that player, and I want that player, and I want that player. And they go, okay, we'll get those players for you, and then we'll work on who we're going to get out. As fans, we all knew that Kane was gone because we brought in Vicario, Maddison, etc. Van der Ven, etc. So we knew Kane had gone because that money had been spent. I want an ownership group where I don't have to think, okay, so we bought all these players. Who's going to be the sacrificial lamb this season? Because that's kind of the way it is under Levy and Enoch. It is we sign a load of players and there's always a sacrificial lamb. I saw the pictures and the memes going around about when we sold Bale and we signed them 7 players, Paulinho, Soldado, etc. And this time we sold Kane and signed 7 players. And obviously the memes were going around about, oh, have we done the same thing again? So for me, I don't really care. I would love to see state money in our club. I think we're a massive club who are a bit sleeping giants in a way. We're the most disrespected football team on any social media platform out there. Every London club hates us, and to be honest, I would love to see them all eat some humble pie. So for me, that's what I want.
Yeah, 2 points on that, and you don't really have to answer as such. More of a statement, but I feel like to a certain degree, I do agree with you about ripping up contracts and things like that. Whilst I think that financials are important, I also I'll use one example, and a clear example of Eric Dyer, right? Clearly, Ange Postecoglou doesn't like Eric Dyer and doesn't think he fits into the system, which I completely agree with.
Yeah.
The problem that we have with Eric Dyer is he's unlikely to be registered. And because I don't think he actually affects us in any way. He doesn't have a homegrown status, anything like that, as far as I remember. And so, because of his time in Portugal. But we are going to continue to pay his contract until it expires next summer, at which point he'll leave on a free transfer. So what is the difference between that and ripping up his contract now and just paying him out? The only difference is that you pay that over a longer period of time, like a loan or something like that, how you would pay your personal finances or whatever. So I do agree in that sense. That doesn't really make any sense for people like Eric Dyer. I understand, people have got 2 years left on their contract. That is a different story. But, for someone like him, it really makes no difference because we have to pay his contract anyway. He isn't going to be registered from what I've been reading. And so, ripping up his contract really wouldn't make any difference. The only other thing I wanted to say as well on that was that, as much as, we could have spent more money here this summer, we could have spent more money there this summer. The one thing I have liked a little bit about it, and whether this is just Ange talking nonsense, is that, let's use Brennan Johnson as an example. One of the things I have been reading is that he's wanted Brennan Johnson for a while. Not necessarily, obviously, at Spurs, but he's been, he's a player that he's had his eye on and he's really keen on. And so it does feel like, we have been signing players and positions that he wants to, wants to have. I was talking with a neighbour of mine the other night, and he saw me out in my front garden, and I was wearing my Spurs top, and he's a Celtic fan, and he come and talk to me about Big Ange for about 20 minutes or so, and he said, the one thing that he does really like is good wingers. And he also mentioned about, it wasn't necessarily about Valise, but, I was talking about him and it didn't really make any sense why we would sign him if he wasn't going to be ready. But he said that he did a very similar thing at Celtic. I think it was Hitate that he signed, that he said to everyone, don't expect to see this guy anytime soon. But when he's ready, he'll be a really good player. So I am starting to get a little bit peeved off with this ownership. I'm not going to lie. I'm not as far as, wanting Saudis in or whatever, but I also think that we could end up with Todd Bowley, style of owner, and we could end up looking like a laughing stock, like Chelsea do at the moment. So I don't know. You could get it.
I think what it is, right, is in terms of, the Todd Bowley Chelsea situation is wild. I saw a report the other day that they refused to sign anyone over the age of 25. That's why they didn't go for Maddison, that's bonkers. But I understand Ange is getting what he wants, etc. But it's always this same thing. Yeah, we got Van der Ven, etc., and Vicario and whoever else, kind of Maddison, done early. But that was done because realistically, Levy and Enoch knew Kane was going. They knew they were going to sell him. That's the way that works. What annoys me is once Kane was sold, because that money's already been spent, we hadn't drawn down this 50 million extra from last season or whatever it was that they put back into the club. We left it until deadline had closed to announce Brennan Johnson. It takes our ownership so long to agree a deal with anyone for any player that it gives us no other chance. we get the same thing every season where a big name player will be linked with a club, but it's too late. Or we tried, it's just too late. It's not too late. Do it earlier. You know, that's what I don't like. You know, it's okay being a good negotiator and wanting to get the best deal and everything else, but you risk leaving us short. I said this in a tweet the other day that we are 2 injuries away from that team that played against Fulham, really. On that centre midfield, you know, when Sarr and Basuma go off the AFCON, we're going to have a midfield of Højbjerg. Hopefully Benton calls back, but Lo Celso, you know, that midfield against Skip. The reality of it is we could have done with another centre midfielder. We definitely need a number 9. If Son gets injured and Richarlison's pretty injury prone as well, where do we go? You know, it's like, okay, who do we put up front? We don't have anyone. So it's like, I understand the point, but we didn't do what should have been done, and that is replace Harry Kane.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we don't go for Tony in Christmas. But I agree with that. I do agree with that. I agree that, you know, and sorry to the other lads there, you know, but I dislike what happened with Højbjerg. You know, the fact was that like Atletico Madrid came in late on and obviously lowballed us, and that depended on then us going for Conor Gallagher, for example, and
that's annoying.
Yeah, it is really annoying, and like it is starting to really get to me. But I also I really try and sit there and think, you know, do I really want a Todd Bowley, or or who might I end up getting, and that's what's the worrying thing for me, I suppose. But
I understand. Sorry, boys. I know you two are just sat there watching us.
I'm enjoying this, mate. This is
you know, I'm not ranting, so I'm not angry today. But I'm trying to get my point across eloquently, which is a new thing for me. But my theory on this whole ownership is they have had 20 odd years now to really make a difference. This game changer stadium that we moved into, which cost 50% more than it was supposed to cost. We don't ever invest correctly. I mean, our record signing is what? Tongi for 64 million, right?
Yeah.
You look at other clubs around us that we're competing with that will just go and drop that on a player that they need because they need him. Arsenal down the road dropping 105 million on Declan Rice, which I think is outrageous, but they were backed. Edu went, that's who he wants. Let's go and get him. You know, City dropping that on Gvardiol. You know, they got 5 or 6 centre backs at City. They didn't really need him. They could have coped, but they did because the manager wants him. So for me, it's just about an ownership taking accountability. And the biggest thing with Levy is, for me, he never owns up to his mistakes, and it pisses me off. He'll make a fuck up. He'll make a fuck up, and he won't say nothing. The ticket prices, for example.
It's learning from your failures, I think, isn't it? Like that, and that's the thing that's getting to me now. Is like, how many times do we have to mess about with offers and then not get the player, and then someone just comes in and pays the money for the player, in which they want. And that's the thing. It's like you can do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, but unless you learn from your mistakes, that's the biggest issue. But anyway, let's move back to
sorry, boys.
Positivity. So
I'm positive. I'm very happy, mate. Can you not tell? Look at the smile.
Yeah.
I know this is the most positive Dave I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Wynnie? 4 games into the season about Big Ange.
Loving it, mate. Absolutely. Honestly, I have so much admiration for him. Probably more admiration than I have for any other Tottenham manager. I just like how. So what was that, mate?
I said bold.
Yeah, I know, and that is very bold for being 4 games into a season. But his aura is just insane. Like.
Yeah.
Whenever I see him on the TV, whether it be in an interview or whether it's just him applauding the fans, I'm just literally watching so intently on the screen, which I haven't done with Tottenham for so long. I just think, look, I like how honest he is. He's straight to the point. Again, we haven't had even Poch. As we've had Conte and Mourinho, who used to just say the same old bullshit every single week. Used to just blame the players, never blame themselves. Even Pochettino, he was still a bit like a media person. He would say the right things that he felt he needed to say. I genuinely feel that Ange will say what he feels within him and what what he takes from the game that we've played or the game coming up, or how, whatever situation he's being put into and asked about. So I think the football we're playing is incredible. It really, really is. It's like Poch point two in terms of like it's better than what we were playing under Pochettino. I think personally, again, this is just my opinion, and I think there's just so much fluidity. Within the team, the morale is ridiculously high. Like we're seeing Vicario and Romero. I'm sure you've all seen it when he made that save where he tipped it over the bar. When Romero also got a little nick in on the tackle, they both celebrated that together like they had won the World Cup. And that we were. I think we were 3-1 up at the time. So it's not even if that would have been an equalising goal, that would have just brought Burnley back into the game. And they've both celebrated it like it's these people are playing like it's their last game. And whether that's down to Ange bringing that in, I'm sure it is, but maybe we've just got a new batch of players that are hungry to win things, and the players we've had in there before, maybe we're just getting a bit stale. So the answer to your question is 4 games in, I'm absolutely loving it. And I
also love reading his interviews in Australian in my head. Did anyone else do
that? Yeah. I always chuck in a mate at the end for good measure.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love it. Long may it continue.
And I'm a big advocate for Big Ange, and I did put a bold statement about if Ange wins something with us, I'm going to get Big Ange tatted on my thigh. So I'm all up for that if that goes down. But do you know what? Talking about the conversation I had with the neighbour of mine, I've never spoken to, because usually I chat with my next door neighbour about Celtics. There's full of Celtic fans around me, and you can always tell on Derby Day who supports who from what noise is coming from the house. But anyway, he was chatting to me, and the only thing that's like dampened my spirits ever so slightly, and you know me, I never get too down, is that he was telling me about he was listening to some of the Spurs interviews that Ange has been doing, and he was telling me about how happy he felt when Ange was doing the exact same interview at Celtic, and he was like, I cannot tell you how many times the guy has said the same thing that he said at our club as he said at your club. But I'm under no illusion that he's going to be at Spurs forever. He's a manager that likes to move around.
I think that's because that, like he said before, that's my philosophy. I know nothing else. So it may be repetitive, but that's because he doesn't change wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, fair. Anyway, Kallum, you've been silent for a long time, playing probably Football Manager as you've been doing. So, what's your thoughts on Big Ange? And actually, more importantly, because you weren't a part of this podcast before Big Ange took over, I don't think. And so, what were your thoughts before, and what are they now?
I follow the line that you guys are going with. I am very positive with Big Ange. I think that he's got his whole philosophy set out. It's his way or the highway. I appreciated what he said in his press conference this week as well, where one of the journos came out and went, "What do you think of club signings?" And he went, I don't care what the club does. I won't sign off on a player unless they fit my system and want to play for me. And that's been reiterated from the interviews with Solomon, Vicario, Maddison, Van der Ven. He's either Zoom called them or called them up before they've come to join to actually see whether they, 1, want to play for Spurs and 2, want to play for Ange.
And 3 with her like a Barbie.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's probably done him a barbecue. I wouldn't be surprised. Pochettino tried that. Look how that works. Didn't go down that well. But no, it's been very positive the way that he's come in. He said that it's going to take time. And I think when you look at the contracts that are being offered about to certain candidates, which we're looking for, like Arne Slot, Nagelsmann, people like that, there's always the offer of 1 to 2 year contracts. Spurs took a big risk on Ange and went full. He's relatively unproven manager. It's then been a process where it's been followed all the way through his press conferences leading up to now, where he's saying it'll take time. I've still got a squad that needs to be adapted to what I want to do. I need to build and reshape this club. It's the rebuild we've all been asking for, God knows how many years previous. people have to back Ange now, and ENIC. I'm not a happy clapper. I don't like ENIC. But I'm not one of them that goes around screaming from the top of my lungs, going, "ENIC, fuck off."
You're not Dave.
I'm more composed. I have more decorum. I will go very posh, sir. But no, in all seriousness, Andy said that he's already expected a director of football to come in. Scott Munn's going to come in.
Where is Scott Munn?
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Hey,
I thought he was meant to join months ago.
City Group changed the gardening leave terms, so he's still working for them at the moment, even though him and Paratici keep turning up randomly in photos around Spurs camp and all that. Because even Paratici, I thought he was meant to be behind bars now.
I'll tell you what, Paratici, just a quick word on Paratici. I slated him so much, but you look at the signings he's made for us.
Look,
as far as I'm concerned, bring him back in his handcuffs.
Yeah. Genuinely, can anyone name a Paratici signing that's been shit?
Yeah, Galini.
Galini was one. I'd say maybe Brian Hill, but probably because he hasn't been given a chance. So I'm only going on based on the fact that we've...
Either way, 85% have been fucking shit up. Yeah, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I mean, even some of the youth players they got in under Paratici, like Will Lancashire and Sonset Bell, the two strikers they've got, they're banging them in for the under-21s at the moment. They're on
we're top of the league, aren't we?
Yeah, top of the league for that, and top of the league for the 18s, I think, as well.
And we only didn't get relegated because of some random reason, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where they can buy.
It's like Arsenal, they managed to get their way into the Premier League all those years ago. Anyway, this was meant to be a transfer show, so I will speak very briefly on that before we go on to everyone's favourite parts, which is FPL and score predictions. I say it's everyone's favourite parts. No one's ever told me different, so
we just assume it is.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention, I want to go around everyone and without going into too much detail, because I've got Pizza Hut on the way. But I want to get everyone's kind of like, round up and out of 10 of the transfer window. But I did want to mention, actually, because as Callum said, a really important thing was one thing I saw about Brennan Johnson, which was that Ange did a full-on presentation to him to show exactly how he planned on utilizing him within this squad. Yeah. And Maddison even came out and this is an unknown manager to a lot of these players. And to be able to have that much ability and draw for, a manager who's never managed in this league before, I think is absolutely incredible. And so long may it continue. Evening to Adrian. Thanks for joining. Make sure you're subscribing. Right, so let's go backwards around the room and give everyone's rating out of 10 for this transfer window. So I gave the transfer window an 8 out of 10 the other day on social media. Look, yes, we could have got rid of more players. Yes, we could have not sold Harry Kane. But I think the players that have come in have made an impact and are players that we desperately needed. So, for that reason, I'm giving it an 8. Callum?
6.5.
6.5. We've got a 6 in the comments. I said this on your tweet you put out, but we still need a midfielder and a defender and a good striker and offload or rip up contracts. Wow. Oh, change their mind very quickly to 7. That was quick. Wynnie?
I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think the players we brought in have been very good, have been perfect for what we want to do. This is probably controversial, but I don't look too much on the players that we could have got out as being included in the whatever out of 10, because there can be certain. I know our board are shit at selling players, but there can be certain stipulations like we've done it before where other teams have tried to be cheeky. So I have no doubt that someone would have known that we need to get rid of Davinson Sanchez and gone, do you know what? We'll give you 4 million.
Like 7 million.
We'll give you 4 million now, and another million in 2 years' time, or something shit like that. Now, I know we need to get these players out the door, but we also don't want to just give them away for fuck all. So I don't look at the players. There's no doubt we could have got rid of more players. Yeah, of course we could have. But I'm looking solely on the players we got in. And for that reason, 7.5. And I think the H situation was completely irrelevant because I think that was inevitable. I think as soon as he got, wind that someone else wanted him, someone decent, he was gone. And I don't think we could have changed his mind at any point. There was obviously reports that he was willing to sign a new contract if he played, and the sad thing is, I think he would have absolutely loved Ange Ball. And I am confident if he'd have stayed that he would have even now would have been contemplating signing a new contract, but he didn't. So for 7.5 is what I'm going for. I'm not disappointed, but I feel like there could have been maybe just a little bit better, a little bit more.
Yeah, Dave.
Well, apart from us turning into a fucking library and learning about players left, right, and centre, incomings I'm very happy with. I do think we're still lacking another centre half. I do think we're still lacking another centre midfielder, and we are lacking a number 9. So I'm with Kallum as a 6.5. I'd say 6.5 overall is probably a 7 for incomings and probably like a 4 for outgoings. I mean, why can't we just get rid of players? Yeah, we've loaned Sergio Reguilon to Man United, and he's got an option to break that in January if when their actual left backs are fit. We cannot get rid of players, so instead we have a bloated, inflated squad of mercenaries. People like Hugo Lloris still sitting there. Eric Dyer, Højbjerg, etc. So for me, overall 6.5, but I am happy with the inbounds, but I don't think it was enough.
Yeah, perfect. We'll talk, next week a little bit more about transfers and a little bit more detail, as well as previewing the next game, because as far as I'm aware, next week is an international break.
Yeah.
There's no game, which actually is a lovely segue into a little bit of FPL chat as I stare directly at Wynnie. Yeah. So let's
Who's
move
top
on.
out the hosts, Wynnie? I don't know.
What's that? Sorry.
Who's top out of the hosts? I can't remember.
I don't know, Dave. I don't know. I feel like you do know. Yes, Dave, it is you. Out of the hosts, I will say, obviously our league is there's people in there, our supporters as well. But Dave, you are top of the hosts on 248 points. Luke, you are second on 240 points. I am just slightly behind you on 236. Harry, who was having a bit of a stinker to start with, he's now creeping up to me and you, Luke. He's on 229, so he's not too far behind. And obviously, poor Kallum joining in late to the party. But still, commendable on 159 points. So, as you know, things in FPL, things can change drastically.
Marathon, not a sprint.
There can be a 60, 70 point swing in one way.
Just a shout out for our followers. Who is top? What is the top 3?
The top 3. Okay, so the top 3 is Juan Sancho, Brainy Paul, and you're third, Dave, in the overall table. So we've got to take you out. So then it's Jack Johnson. So they're the top 3 of the supporters. So
yeah, the famous singer Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson,
yeah. Who'd have thought it, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. Thanks for that, Wynnie. And if we move on to the score predictions table, so just to run through the score predictions from this week,
this is more
just to let everybody know.
Give me a sec. I'm just going to. There we go.
We'll go back to the Fulham game. So Dave went for a 2-1 Spurs win. I went for a 1-0 Spurs win. Harry went for a 3-1 Spurs win. Wynnie got a correct score, so 3 points for Wynnie is a 1-1 draw. And Kallum went for a 2-1 Spurs win. So that took Wynnie up to 4 points, me 4 points, Harry 1, Dave 1, Kallum 1. And then yesterday for the Burnley game, I went for a 3-1 Spurs win. Dave went for a 3-0 Spurs win. Wynnie went for a 1-0 Spurs win. Harry went for a 0-0 draw. And Kallum went for a 2-1 Spurs win.
Just saying, I should get an extra half a point because I was closer than anyone else.
So that made that.
I'm not having that, Dave.
This to the predictor table. So I am still top because I am the best with 5 points. Wynnie is joint top with 5 points. Dave on 2, Kallum on 2, and Harry is only on 1 point. It's all to play for in the predictor table. So we will take score predictions next week for the Sheffield United game, if I'm not mistaken. Harry has already given me his prediction, so I'm not going to let him change it next week, but I will keep an eye on it in case he comes on here and tries to blag a different score. So
he changed his mind more like the weather, so
exactly. So that kind of wraps it up. I just want to talk about this really quickly before we finish. I did read this as well today. Sanchez could be off to Galatasaray. They were the ones who originally tried to lowball, I think, an offer for him. So potentially they've come up a little bit more. Turkish transfer window closes 15th of September. My only concern for this, and anyone can take this question.
Backup.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Ange quite likes Sanchez in terms of his quickness, I think. And
if you read what I've read today, apparently Phillips has impressed.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. It's acceptable to get rid of him if you're going to promote, Dorrington or Phillips.
And that's what I've read. I've read Ashley Phillips Phillips is improved drastically and has impressed everyone. And if that's the case, I'm more than happy to see him get promoted because he was on the bench yesterday as well.
Yeah. And he impressed me in my Football Manager save as well. So
that's where it counts.
He's got the Luke stamp of approval then there, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. If anything goes by me, it's better Football Manager knowledge gets you absolutely nowhere.
To be fair, though, if Sanchez did go, we've still realistically got Davis and Phillips who come in. I know it's not great, but...
No, you've got to promote youth. I think you give the youth a try. Don't mention a D word in Davis or Dyer on this show ever again.
Yeah.
Kallum.
I
think Phillips, Dorrington, they're the two that you need to really promote and progress, and that's what I hope will happen. And I do hope that we get out these mercenaries from our football club.
And Dorrington, I will say, Dorrington looks like an Ange Ball type player as well.
Anyway, that kind of wraps us up today. So I really want to thank everybody for tuning in, everybody in the comments, and everybody for your support across all social media platforms. I will be live tomorrow night on a channel which I can't remember what it's called, so bear with me one moment while I discuss
that goes down well. Yeah, say that live.
Let's talk Tottenham. I'll be on tomorrow night, so if you fancy tuning in, stay on to my social media and I'll be on there. Kallum, thank you very much again, my friend. How can everyone find you?
It is at Kallum Stubbs 97. Thanks for having me on again, mate. And I should probably be here next weekend unless I'm sleeping because I need to relax after deadline day.
Amazing. Have you actually gained any followers since you joined us?
I have gained followers, and I have still got to post the pictures of me down at the training ground on Friday as well.
Yeah, good man.
I will eventually post them on the podcast in the next couple of weeks.
Amazing, mate. Thank you as always. You've been brilliant, a great addition to the show. Wynnie, how can everyone find you?
Wynnie1991 on Twitter. I say this every show, but on a Monday I like to post out a controversial tweet on the podcast Twitter. So please do interact with that. I do my very best to make sure that I comment or at least like every comment. So make sure that I have interacted with it. I'm also on Holly's show tomorrow. I know. Yeah, making my debut.
Holly, she hasn't even got me on yet.
I know. So
I swear too much.
I feel like I've got, when all the England players are sitting by the phone waiting for the international manager to give them a call. So I've got it. So look, so do, please check that out tomorrow as well.
Me and Dave feel like Dyer right now, just sitting there.
Yeah, David and Dyer are just looking at phones like, fuck's sake.
Dave, how can everyone find you?
Firstly, I've got a question. How's everyone enjoyed the positive, calm Dave today?
Love it, mate.
Well, don't get used to it because it probably won't last, but, I've done my best.
Thank God for that. Bring on the Hulk.
Yeah, I am. You can find me on Park Lane Pod Dave on Twitter. Like Wynnie, I do interact with people on the pod Twitter as well, just not as much as Wynnie, not as patient as he is, but I think everybody knows by now. But I'll be back again next week. So yeah, see you all then.
In response to one of the comments that just popped up, there were a few players down there. I did pass Perisic, Brooklyn's Lions Foster, and I think Brian Hill was leaving there as well around about the same time. I was there later in the day, so most of the training had finished. But I did hear about the Brennan Johnson stuff from him being there, so it weren't too bad.
Amazing. Yeah.
Luke's pizza up there. He's getting hungry.
Yeah. If anyone wants to follow me, you can follow me, Luke_Park Lane. But more importantly, make sure you're following at Park Lane Podcast or at Park Lane Pod. I always get that wrong every single week on all social medias. So you got your Twitters, your TikToks, other places like that. And more importantly, make sure you are liking the video. Make sure you are subscribing to the channel because we all do this for free, and it's good to see some of you actually getting involved. What I really want to say is shout out to everybody that comes on every single week, because there are people that come on this show every single week and they comment and they talk to us every week. We do know who you are and we do really appreciate you. And every time your name pops up, it does make me happy. If you listen to any podcast platform, yeah, happy, yeah. Exactly. If you listen to any podcast platform, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. And yeah, just want to again thank you all very, very much for tuning in. It's international break this week, but we will have a show next Sunday where we'll be previewing the Sheffield United game along with our score predictions, and may talk about the deadline and the transfers in a little bit more detail. But until next time, thank you all very, very much for tuning in, and a massive come on, you Spurs.